Hello, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. My name is Jacob Coleshaw, joined by Charlie Zazera to talk about the players Watford should sign this January, or the players that we think Watford should sign anyway. Charlie, we call you Momentum Bar Zazera. It's Charlie Wisecout Zazera. Just talk to us about the preparation for this video, first off.
Yeah, I always have fun doing these. Like I said, pretending I'm playing Football Manager. But yeah, just have a look at kind of what positions that people have said on Twitter. We put the question out on Twitter, what priority positions, and then having a look at kind of different profiles, narrowing down how realistic some signings are, looking at some clips on Wisecout. But yeah, it's all a bit of fun, really.
This is the thing. What we have to mention at the start of this is we can only be so ambitious and we want to make this as realistic as possible. So these are players that we think Watford should sign, because obviously in an ideal world we're signing Mbappe, Haaland, all these players. But these are players that we think Watford could realistically go out and get in this January market. What I wanted to do before we started today, Charlie, was actually just look back on the last January transfer window, which was on Slavan Bilic, and Andrew French did a piece about players that we missed out on. And one of them at the time was Jake Livermore. And I know he did a piece today talking about it, and he was a little bit gutted, right, that he didn't manage to make the move at the time.
Yeah, it was a really good piece from Andrew, and he's got a second part coming out the day after. Yeah, it was interesting what Jake was saying, how keen he was to work with Slav. He had a good relationship with Slav and Val. I'm trying to think, do you think if Jake came in yesterday, it would have helped? My gut says maybe not, and it was just last season was a bit of a mad one. But we were in from Musa Sissoko as well, wasn't we, last window? Rouge came in, who I was very excited about and did nothing. But we did get Porto and Hoot, didn't we?
Yeah. When you look at the players in that window, so if we take it right back, we signed Ryan Porteous, Britta Assombalonga, Wesley Hoot, João Ferreira, Ishmael Kone. And then you look at a couple of the loans. We had Mateus Martins and Henrik Arouge. So some have turned out really well in the likes of Ishmael Kone. Some others not so well in terms of Henrik Arouge, who joined on loan. In terms of this season so far, Charlie, how are you feeling going into this January transfer window? It feels like Watford are maybe looking at 3 to 4 players to come in, if I was going to guess.
Yeah, no more than 4, definitely. Maybe 3, around the 3 mark. I think we're in a good place. I think Val's done an amazing job with the team, building the really good culture. It was great to see them enjoying themselves and the staff and the Christmas do the other night. And we've got kind of, well, before I'd done this, I did like a player position squad depth to see what areas we needed. And that's why I've got like a defensive midfielder as a priority. But I think the squad's in good shape. And now it's just about how ambitious is Gino to go for that, one of those 2 playoff places, or are we just looking to get in the right characters if they become available so that we can build and maybe go into next season for a promotion chase?
I think you make a really good point there about finding the balance, because there'll be a bit of a clamour to get some players through the door in certain positions as well. And there's going to be fans, obviously, who are watching this who we thinking we should maybe target certain positions over others. The one that stands out for me is some people think we should get a goalkeeper in. Now, with the sort of rise of Ben Hamer in a Watford shirt, is that a priority? And just going back to what you said about balancing this Watford squad, do we bring in players and risk upsetting that team dynamic and that team morale, which Val has instilled and really started to develop, I think, in the sense that even when you look back to that Preston game, players are having to come on and prove their worth. And I think before, there were players who maybe come on knowing they're going to start every week. I think a good example maybe is Imran Loser, actually, last season. When he was available, he always knew he was going to play. Didn't really matter how he was playing. This season, it doesn't matter if Imran cost how much to us. We know that he's not always going to start, and it's based on performances in training. So that's also one thing to look out for in this January transfer window, is players that are going to be leaving. But we're going to focus on players that are going to come in, or hopefully come in, or we think should be coming in. So, Charlie, first name, who are we talking? And position, name, age.
Yeah, so like I just said, I think we should go for a defensive midfielder. At the moment, we've only really got Jake Livermore. When he went out the side, we had the Chilean Pirlo come in, Francesco Sierralta. But I think having another defensive midfielder would really be a great addition, and I think that should be the priority. So the player I'm putting forward for this is Tim Urubumo, who plays for Aston Villa He was at QPR on loan last season, one of their best performers. He's 20 years old. Like I said, defensive midfielder. He's a bit of a destroyer, very dynamic, but he's good on the ball as well. He hasn't got any game time for Villa so far this season. I think Villa could add in January, depending on their ambitions. He was part of England's under-19 squad that won the Euros in 2022. I think having Jake Livermore to learn off would be excellent for him. And I can't forget him because he played against us and scored against us last season at Loftus Road. So Tim Urubunum would be my first shout. What do you reckon?
32 games for QPR on loan last season, 2 goals. I think it fits the profile in the respect that I think Watford will dip into more of the British English market this January. That's kind of been made clear by Gianluca Nani in an interview with Tuta Mercato Web yesterday. And he kind of hinted at the fact we'd go into this market. And I think that fits the profile. Also, I guess the great thing is if we get him on a 6-month loan to the end of the year, maybe with an option to make permanent if he has a successful loan spell, I like the sound of it.
My only question is, do Villa, after last season's loans, are Villa going to want to send us another loanee after?
Well, last season was it Courtney Hawes, Keenan Davis? They were the 2, right?
Yeah.
Is that relationship fractured? I mean, the Courtney Hawes one is probably the one that's not a great look for everyone involved, really. But that's a great shout from Charlie to kick it off. I guess the one player that I'm going to put forward in that position, and he's someone who's been linked with us before. He's always been linked with us since Vow's comes to the club, and that's Callum Styles. Now I know he's a man who we've mentioned before, and some people are going to say, "Oh, think of new names." But it goes back to that sort of defensive midfielder argument, because I think the great thing about Callum Styles is he can not only play in that defensive midfielder role, he can also play as a fullback as well. And if we want that versatility, there's been a couple of times with Ken Sema drop into left back. Can we get Callum there as a sort of understudy if Lewis gets injured so we can keep Sema further up the pitch? He's someone that I think would be a really good asset for us, playing for League One for Barnsley at the moment. Obviously plays for the Hungary national team as well. He's got pedigree at championship level. He knows Val's system, working with him at Barnsley. I think it makes sense. Now, there was an argument that people said, is he outside of our sort of price bracket in the summer? But I think if we can make that one happen, it would be a good move for us, Charlie, in terms of that sort of versatility. And also the fact that similar to Livermore, he knows how Val operates, and that's only a good thing. What do you reckon?
Yeah, you could tell the impact he's had, and knowing what the expectations of Val. And he mentioned that in his article. But Callum Styles to Watford under Val just seems like the most natural transfer or thing that was going to happen. And like you said, I think you bang on. The thing that I want to point on to that is he scores absolute bangers. And this season, we've seen how many shots we've been taking from those kind of opportunities. So it'd be great to see him come in with that left wand and hit a couple of rockets. I think that's a good shout.
Take it. 2.5 years left on his. Oh no, 1.5 years left on his Barnsley contract, and can play across the midfield. Can also play at fullback as well. So that's one to keep an eye on. Maybe the one con against his name is his price bracket. Whether Barnsley would want a little bit more than we're willing to pay. So that's definitely, hopefully, one to look out for. Moving on to the next name, Charlie.
For the next one, I've gone for a striker.
Ooh.
Jacob, I think we bought the wrong Danish forward.
Oh, wow. That's big because you've been at Rybich.
I have been at Rybich, but when I came across this player, and I think this one is pretty punchy, it might be too ambitious, but I think we should go for a player called Mikhail Kufman. He plays for Union Berlin. They bought him in the summer. Obviously, they're in the Champions League now. So when they got in the Champions League, they bought him. I think they bought him from a German second division team. He's not getting much minutes at all. Union Berlin have got 5 strikers ahead of him. He fits Val's profile to an absolute T. He's a bit of the half Rajovic, half Bayer put together. Really good finisher, good presser, can hold the ball up, really good link-up play. I think, could we lure him to like a loan deal? Like I said, Union Berlin bought him for 2.7 million euros last season, but he just hasn't had any minutes. He's only 22, so he needs game time to play. And when I look at his profile, his situation at the minute, I think he's the Danish striker who could take us to the next level.
What is it about him that makes him fit Val's system so well, because I feel like one of the main things that Val's going to be looking for is that physicality, particularly in that striker position.
Yeah, I think two areas that we really lack are, one, the physicality, which I don't know if Bio or Rajovic have completely as much as we'd hope. But one thing that I think the fans and everyone said about that we need is the finishing. He had 18 goal contributions in the Bundesliga 2 last season, but I'm more looking at, will he fit what Val wants in a striker? And we all know that's big, dynamic, gets himself about, good at starting the press. So I think someone like that, who's a bit outside of the box, there's been links with like Kiefer Moore. I look him some similar profile, but I see him as a bit younger and a bit more dynamic. But I don't know, just something a bit more outside the box. I've seen other big clubs linked with him. I've seen a Leicester account saying they want to go for him. So yeah, that's my shout for a striker, Mikael Kaufmann.
So you mentioned one of the targets that I was going to go for in Kiefer Moore, and I know a lot of people would say that, as you say, it's a little bit more of a standard choice when you look at links to Watford and the transfer rumours. Kiefer Moore's someone who always pops up. I think he would be someone who I wouldn't be surprised if Watford went in for. I don't think it's any surprises if Watford did make a move for someone like Kiefer Moore. You look at his physicality, you look at his stature, you look at his record in the Championship. It makes a lot of sense. I think when you think of the way Val wants to play as well, it goes back to that sort of powerful, physical, aerially strong, someone who can link up play, bring others into play. You feel like Moore fits the bill quite well. So he was one name I had written down, and I know that's a lot of people know Kiefer Moore, so I don't really need to maybe go too in depth on him. But the one man I wanted to shout out, so I've knocked two off in quick succession here. So Kiefer Moore is one of mine. The second one is Ali Al Hamidi at FC Wimbledon. Now, he's a target for a number of League One and Championship clubs, and there's no shock why he's getting so much interest. He's quick, powerful runner who makes smart runs. He can finish at a decent rate. He's got plenty of room to grow as well. I think when you look at his age profile at only 21, his market value is only going up at the minute as well. But I think you look at his record this season, Charlie, 24 games in all competitions for Wimbledon, 13 goals, 6 assists. He's averaging a goal every 147 minutes in terms of goal contributions. I think he's someone who's going to attract a lot of interest. Whether Wimbledon will price some teams out with what they want for the Iraq international, but I think it makes sense, that one. If the price is right, the way he plays, you look at that number 9 position. I've put 2 number 9 targets there. I think that's one position we can definitely look to upgrade. I think he'd be a good fit.
Yeah, I really like the look of him. I haven't seen him too much, but looking at the clips that I've seen him, I know he smashed it in the FA Cup recently, and he's been doing really well for League Two. That's my only thing. He is playing at League Two. How much of a jump is it? But I think with his age, and I think we've said on this channel a lot of time, we're not gunning for promotion now. I think it's a risk. I think you could get him out of Wimbledon for about 2 million. I think if someone that you're going to invest for the next 10 years to become your next Troy Deeney, I really like the look of him. Yeah, will we just invest that much money? What's your gut about how much we're going to spend this January?
I can't see us spending more than 1 to 2 million, if I'm honest. I think it's one of those seasons. I think we said it in the last show about sort of the aims and ambitions. And to be fair, I think it will show a lot about the sort of players we go for, maybe about where we see the season going. Because if we're going all out and paying 2-3 million for a player, then it goes, okay, fair enough, we're in business. If we're maybe looking into the low market, or maybe dipping into the sort of 500,000 to 1 million, then you maybe think, okay, we might try and sneak it, but top 10, happy days. I think the thing is with him, and just another stat to chuck in with Al Hamidi as well, 150 touches in the opposition box, which is the most of any player in League Two this season. And I think I understand the argument about playing in League Two, the step up to the Championship, if he's starting week in, week out. But I think you've seen a lot of players from the lower leagues come up and do really well in the Championship. I don't think the step up is that different in that respect. Like in terms of quality, of course, but especially as a number 9, if you're going to be given opportunities like he has in League Two in the Championship, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't do well in a Watford shirt. So he's a player that I think would be a good fit. So I've listed off 3, Charlie. Who's your third one?
I just want to quickly sneak in another striker one that we talked about. Daniel Jebinson. I tweeted him in the summer, but Sheffield United striker. He's only got 6 months left on his contract. Whenever he's played for them, he's been great for them, but he struggled to get in. Obviously, they're in the Premier League now. Is that kind of signing that if we're looking for someone of a cheaper price, we could probably buy him out of his contract? So that's someone that I looked at. I just wanted to mention him. But looking at the next player that I was looking at kind of priority positions, and especially after the weekend against Preston. And although I thought Tom Delly had a good game, I do think the right back area with Ngakia's injury is an area that we should be looking at. And although the first two players that I've kind of mentioned are more youngsters, I also think if we do want a promotion push, we need to bring in that experience like Matthew Connolly or Ben Watson that we brought in recent years that has helped us get over the line. So the player that I'm putting forward for our right back spot is Leeds United's Luke Ayling. So he's 32, obviously an experienced right back. He can play centre back as well. Got that championship experience. Obviously went up with Leeds. After playing Bielsa ball. He's not played for Leeds in their last 7 games. He's been their captain at times this season. He's got that leadership experience. He is originally a London lad. He used to play for Arsenal, so maybe he could come back home. But I just think that kind of shrewd signing, I don't know whether Leeds would kind of sell to us. I don't know if they think we're a rival, but that kind of experience to come in, help Ryan Andrews rotate, could be a really shrewd bit of business. What do you reckon?
That kind of reminds me of when Ben Watson signed in January. That sort of experienced figure who comes in and just kind of is the glue for everyone. The only issue I raise with that one is, as you say, will Leeds sell to us? That's something to bear in mind. Would he want the move if he isn't going to be guaranteed regular football? I think we all know Andrews is probably going to be starting most games. And wages, I was thinking as well, if he's been at Leeds for quite a while, is that become a problem? But I think in terms of the profile of player, I can completely understand the logic to that one. Moving on to my fourth shout, and similar vibe in terms of the experience. I've gone for Joe Worrell and Nottingham Forest. So the reason being is this might have. So I put him down before Steve Cooper got sacked because him and I think it's McKenna, the two centre backs, had been kind of ushered away from training and they were training on their own. Now Nuno's come in, it might change the dynamic. But I looked at Joe Worrell and I thought, this is a guy who's got promotion from the Championship to the Premier League. He'd be a really trusty centre back to get in. And I think when you look at the options we have at centre back, I just worry if we get an injury to either Porteous or Hoot, Sierralta can fill in there as well. And I think some people have raised issues with potentially a left-footed centre-back not coming in January, just in case Hoot gets injured. I know Worrell isn't, but he can play either side. He's good with both feet. I think maybe a loan to the end of the season in a sort of similar Matt Connolly vibe. I know I'm very much like sort of just comparing players from 2014-15, but that sort of experienced head to come in. He knows the Championship. He knows what it takes to get out of the Championship. I know Middlesbrough and Leicester, I think, showed an interest in him. I think it'd make a lot of sense.
Do you think he'd start over Porto and Sierralta?
I think he's a better player than Porteous. I think he gets in over Porteous for me. Who I think you've got to keep as a left-footed centre-back. And that's one area which potentially, if someone in the comments wants to put some suggestions for some left-footed centre-backs, that's probably where we're a little bit short. If Hoot gets injured, that passing lane.
Yeah. My fifth pick is a left-footed centre-back.
Do you want to chuck him in now?
Stay tuned. No, I'll save him to the end. But another player of those experienced Championship players that I was looking at for that right back spot is Middlesbrough's Tommy Smith. Get another Tommy Smith back at Watford, but he's not getting a game over Isaiah Jones at the moment. He has got that experience. So, and like you said about Ayling, I think was a really good point. He's not going to want to come and not necessarily play first team football, because we know that Ryan Andrews is kind of our main man. So maybe Tommy Smith might have been a better suggestion.
Do you want to do your final fifth choice?
I've got two left, mate.
You've got two left. I've got one. So you take one of yours.
Okay, going number 4, and I think this one's my favourite one, to be honest. And I've gone for a goalkeeper. I've gone for AFC Bournemouth's Mark Travers.
Was he at Stoke last season?
So he was at Stoke on loan this season.
This season.
Yeah, and they record him. So 24-year-old Ireland international. He's playing at Bournemouth. They record him. I think Neto got injured, but he hasn't played. And Bournemouth have got another 3 goalkeepers as well. So he's just kind of sitting on the bench. But he's got that championship experience. He's got the promotion experience with Bournemouth when they went up. He had the most clean sheets in 21-22. But mostly the reason why I think this is my favourite shout is just his attributes. Excellent with the ball at his feet. And we've seen in the first half of the season, Val's looking for a goalkeeper who can play, and that's kind of been parked for the time being. I think he would have that distribution that Val would want. I think more importantly, another area that we're looking for is that comfortable dealing with crosses, commanding his area. I've seen a couple of clips of him doing that, quite strong, makes good decisions, whether to come claim crosses or punch them away. And as all good goalkeeper needs, he's an excellent shot stopper. Looking at the comments and on Twitter, Stoke fans are desperate to have him back. They're not too happy with our old friend Jack Bonham at the moment, but someone that I think I've talked to everyone that I've suggested bringing in, possibly alone, but I think this guy could be our goalkeeper for the next 10 years. Can we put down a decent fee to get him out of Bournemouth? Mark Travers, he's my favourite shout for someone that we should go and get in January.
Ooh, it's big. Where does that leave Batman and Hamer?
Difficult. I think Backman might be looking for another club, especially if we do bring in another goalkeeper. I think he's had a difficult start to the season, hence why Ben Hamer's come in. I think Ben Hamer's a lot older and kind of happier with his role, and especially now he's very happy considering he's number 1 at the moment. But I think Mark Travers is a level above both of them, and I think if we could secure someone like this, he could be our goalkeeper for the next 10 years, and he could be that goalkeeper that we could just feel relaxed about. Like I can't remember a goalkeeper we've had since maybe Aurelio Gomez.
Aurelio, God, we've had quite a few keepers, haven't we? When you look at Foster, Karnazes, we had who else?
Foster, Pantelimon,
who karate kicked Balassi, didn't he, in the cup semi-final? And you look at someone like back to Almunia. Yeah, you look at. We've never really had a young keeper who we've developed over a period of time. We normally go for
Ben Foster first time round.
Since then, I don't think we've had a keeper who's grown with the club. It's normally been someone who's been there, done that, has come in for a period of time. Like Gomez, for example, had already played so many games at PSV, Spurs. Foster had played loads of games.
We had Scott Loach, and he played for England under 21s, but he never kept up that levels.
Scott Loach, yeah, that's a bit of a throwback as well. Blimey. Okay, so Charlie's got his 5.
What do you reckon about Mark Travers?
What do I think about him? I'm having him. I just don't think we'll get a keeper in Jan.
Why?
I really like the name. I think he's the profile of. I say profile on this channel so many times, but the profile of Travers really is like, especially if you got him in now going into next season. I think it would almost be like 6 months settling. Bang, next season we go for playoffs or whatever. Really good profile, got that experience, still young for a keeper. I like homegrown. I think there's a lot to like about him. I just think price from Bournemouth's point of view as being an academy product. I think, will we get someone in when it's probably not a priority position now after Hamer doing well? And then where does it leave Hamer and Backman? I think that would be more of a summer signing for me rather than Jan. But in terms of the player itself, definitely a fan. And I guess that kind of leads on to my last name, which is Etienne Kamara at Udinese. Now, he's someone that's been linked. He's someone that hasn't had a great time at Udinese since he joined from Huddersfield in the summer. He played 20 games in the league, in the Championship for Huddersfield last season. Was one of their best players, and a lot of Huddersfield fans were, from what I was reading, were quite gutted to see him leave. But since he's joined Udinese, he's only played 1 game, and that was in the Italian Cup. And you look at the sort of player he is, and you look at our midfield options with the likes of Kiembe leaving for the African Cup of Nations. I think it makes a total lot of sense for a guy who not only would fit the way we wants to play, is young, has got energy, he's a good build in terms of he's 1.9 meters, which is about, 6'2", 6'3". I like the look of him. Has that French connection as well with Val, which is something to bear in mind. But genuinely, I look at him and I think it makes a lot of sense to make. And we've got it. A lot of people don't like the connection between us at Udinese. We've got to use that to our advantage. I know people are saying, why don't we get Festi Ebisele from Udinese, or Jordan Zamora, who joined from Bournemouth to Udinese. But I think Etienne Kamara, out of all of them, is the person that would slot into this team, or slot into this squad, is probably a better phrase, when we have a busy periods, and when, let's just say, Kiembe's away, Kone picks up an injury, we've got this guy who can come in. Have I sold it?
I think Tim Irabunum's better than him, but like we said with Callum Styles, I just think it makes complete sense to have that Jake Livermore, have a younger player alongside him that can come in and learn from him. Yeah, I looked at some clips at him when he was at Huddersfield and looked really good in the Championship. I think he plays for like France under 20s with some of their amazing players that are going on to big things. So he's not doing a lot at Udinese. Get that one-way jet over to Hertfordshire and slot in. I like it.
Right, so I've gone through my 5. Charlie, last but not least. Is this best till last, or is this just okay?
Mark Travers is my favourite. So we mentioned it a bit earlier, but someone who could fill in for Wesley Hoot if anything ever happened to him. Again, looking a bit more long-term is a player called Paul Koller. He's 21 years old. He's a tall left-footed centre-half. Plays out in Austria for a team called Altach. He's an Austrian under-21 international. For a defender, he's scored 2 goals this season. But what I liked was when I saw he's in the top 4 for interceptions in the Austrian league for a 21-year-old. Pretty impressive. He also scored 2 goals for Austria under-21s against France under-21s. A kind of a younger player that you're looking to get in early, and someone that we can maybe have a really high ceiling and sell on for. But it's just that position of a left-footed centre-half and the kind of profile that I was thinking that we needed if we can get another young gem in. But he's a player who could go on to become a really good player. Learn from Wesley Hoot, who's shown to be an important player for us this season. But yeah, keep an eye out for Paul Koller to see how his career goes.
Paul Koller, the last shout on the Charlie Zazera 5 players Watford should sign list. I've listed my 5 as well. Do you know what? In the comments, who's got the better 5 shouts first off? Who's winning it? Number 2, which is the pick of the bunch? If there's one player out of the players we've picked out, which one would you go, you know what, Watford should really sign this January? We'd love to hear what you think. Below, leave a like, subscribe, and just a quick heads up, we're going to be at the Mad Square on the 29th for the Stoke game, post and pre-match, and make sure you take advantage of their discounted beer at the Mad Square. We'll be there. Come and say hello, and we're more than happy to chat Watford over a beer anytime, Charlie, right? I mean, look, I actually don't think there's a better... If you said to me top 5 things in life, chatting Watford over a beer is up there.
Chatting Watford over a beer after a win is probably a bit higher.
Just puts from there. What a pleasure, Charlie. Thank you so much, mate. Enjoyed that?
Yeah, I love doing this stuff. Really good fun. So it's going to be interesting in January, but I'm hoping we can just see Watford continue with this good form. And yeah, we'll get excited about any names that we see pop up.
Charlie updating the Y Scout subscription as we speak. I went for a more traditional football manager approach, but let us know what you think in the comment section below. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to WD18. You can follow our socials, our apps are just there, but also WD18 at WD18 fans, and we'll see you next time. Take care. You would.